And now I'm thinking like $1,000 on a belt. Yeah, fine, the quality is good, but they say made in Italy when now we know after this tariff war that most
China.
stuff is made in China.
Yeah.
And then they just ship it over there to put a stamp on it that says made in Italy and then they give it to you, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's fucked.
It's
Yeah.
blind consumerism, right?
Yeah.
It's insane. We always say have 1 to 1.5% of your purchase price in closing costs set aside.
Yeah.
So that if you need to pay land transfer, if you need to pay lawyers' fees, legal fees, and whatever fees are associated with that, also that should cover your furniture costs too.
Yeah.
Right? You need to have some furniture to move into.
Yeah.
So you should always have a cushion. Like you shouldn't close and then have nothing left over. Affordability for our parents were a bit easier than it is for us today, right?
Yeah.
I look at the semi-detached bungalow that I grew up in Scarborough. At that time, my parents maybe bought it for like $250,000.
Yeah.
Now, when I look on House Sigma today, that property is going for like $1 million, right?
Yeah.
And how do you justify, those types of prices? I think it's up to us to kind of get out of that.
Wages haven't gone up, right?
Yeah, our wages haven't gone up.
Narrative.
They haven't gone up. They definitely haven't gone up enough to be able to justify that price point.
Yeah.
It's up to us to kind of get out of that headspace that, okay, well, I need to own this detached 2-garage, 3-garage home in the suburbs because that's what my parents wanted for me or that's what I had growing up. So in 2000 and I want to say 22 or 23, there was this project, you might be familiar with it, Vint. It's called Seton Mulberry. It's in Pickering. I think it was like Opus Homes, Mattamy, a few different builders were involved in that. And at that time, because the market was so hot in early 2023. It was so hot at that time that people were literally having to bid or get into a lottery system to be able to buy.
Yeah.
So I also entered that system where like my wife and I had like 4 laptops going.
Yeah.
We were trying to find something. We're hoping we can get something for a decent price, and we didn't get it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like disappointing at the time. Like, well, what are we gonna do? We can't even buy a home. That can help you cut your amortization basically in half. So instead of paying off your mortgage in 30 years, you just made 1 extra payment on it, and you can pay it off in 10 to 15 years.
So I'm here with.
Suban.
How old are you, and what do you do for a living?
I am 32 years old, going to be 33 later this year, and I'm a mortgage advisor, director here at Affinity Mortgage Solutions.
So what were you taught about money growing up?
Man, that's a good question. Talking about money, I think in a Tamil household, a Sri Lankan household, or South Asian household in general is a bit of a taboo. My parents growing up, they did a good job of shielding us, my brother and I, from any financial troubles that they may have had. Growing up in a middle-class household, everyone's got them, right? Everyone's got those problems. But I didn't really grow up knowing much about money because I wasn't exposed to, again, the burdens that my parents had kind of growing up. But we were always happy. We were always provided for. And we didn't really know what was going on the background. That was something that kind of came on later in life, I'd say.
Yeah, I had a similar thing, and until my 20s, I had no idea.
Yeah, right. And it's a sad thing. I think we gotta it's up to our generation to change that.
Yeah, you gotta have an open conversation.
You gotta have an open conversation, right? So, in all honesty, that's the real raw story of it is that I didn't really know much growing up about money or how to handle it. What it really meant to earn, what it really meant to have a dollar in your pocket. Like those are things that really came later in life.
Okay, so when did you get your first job, and what did you do with the money from that first job?
My first real job, I would have to say, was probably coming out of university.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were kind of against me having a job when I was growing up, going to high school, going to university. I didn't really get pushed in that direction. It was more so just study, earn later on. So my first real job, I would say, is when I was fresh out of university. I had graduated. And I joined a subsidiary of CIBC on their Schedule B lending channel, so alternative lending. Again, I started off in mortgages, since then, in 2014, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that ever since. It's the only thing I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you start learning about credit cards and debt and how all that works?
Oh, man. It's kind of embarrassing, but I think when I really started learning about credit cards and what it meant to have debt is when I was in my first year of university.
Yeah.
My dad kind of set me up with a small credit card. I think the balance was maybe about $500, the limit on that. I was like, oh, I can use this for whatever I want. I was gung-ho about it. I think we didn't have a proper conversation as to how to utilize that. He told me pay it every month, right? Okay. But I was kind of reckless. Again, first year of university, I was away from home at the time. So
did you know to pay the full balance or just pay a minimum payment?
I was thinking make minimum payments, but to be honest with you, Vint, I didn't even do that, right? So I think it was about 6 months into my university career, and I went to go use my credit card at Eastside Marriott's or something to have dinner with my friends, and it didn't work. And so I called the bank, and they said, well, you're over your limit. It didn't comprehend to me at the time what that meant.
Yeah.
And so not only was I overutilizing it, I had, not done a good job of taking care of my credit score.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
Wake up call?
Yeah, a big wake up call for me. And that's how I kind of learned, okay, this is how you're supposed to manage your money. This is how you're supposed to manage credit.
Yeah.
Was through that experience.
Did you learn about the interest that's accruing and stuff, or no?
No, I didn't even think of I for me, it was like, okay, well, I have a $500 credit card here, and then, someone's going to pluck money from a tree and pay it off for me.
It's $500 of free money, right?
Yeah, $500 of free money. And so that's how I treated it. And
I went through a similar story, man.
Yeah, hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah,
At that time, I was probably 17, 18 years old. Not a clue as to what I was doing with money or how to handle it. And so that was a big wake-up call for me. Is like, I had a conversation with my dad. I said, this is what happened. He's like, well, I told you should be making payments on it. Did you do that? I said, no, I didn't. And, that's when we really sat down and we had a more in-depth, I guess, analysis of where I went wrong and what I could do differently. And so that's kind of how I learned, my lesson the hard way. Was it similar for you?
Yeah, 100%. I never had the conversation at all. Like, I just thought minimum payments, right? Yeah. I did make the payments, but minimum payments. Yeah. But that's what the credit card company wants.
Yeah, exactly.
They want you to be a revolver, right?
Right. They're going to accrue interest on you, and they're going to make their money off of you. And the more you spend, the more it's going to accrue, and you don't realize until it's too late. Yeah. That was my case anyway, and I got burned for it. Yeah.
So how old were you when you learned what a credit score was?
I learned what a credit score was, I think, around the same time. I was like 17 or 18, and at that time, I had friends I had a good group of friends, thankfully, that kind of helped steer me in the right direction. Yeah. But they were talking about what the best credit card is to get, and what the benefits are of each card. Yeah. So here's myself. I have a maxed out card, and I didn't realize my credit score was bad. I went to RBC to get this credit card that was pretty advantageous to like points and air miles and things that at the time. So I inquired about that, and they said, well, we just pulled your credit score. It's sitting at a 472. And I did not know. I was like, 472 is that bad? And I did a little more research. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Yeah. So from that point on, I could only get a Capital One, because at that time, Capital One was like for people who had bad credit scores. Yeah. So I had to get a Capital One card and work my way to like, getting a proper score. And so now, thankfully today, I'm happy to say I don't have that Cap One anymore. Yeah. But that's kind of how I started, and that's how I really learned, about credit and how, you need to maintain it to be able to do things that you want to do in life.
Why is having a good credit score important, and what is a good credit score?
Yeah, definitely. Having a good credit score is important, Vince, mainly because as you get older in life, you're going to want to buy a home. You might want to take out a business loan or a personal loan or a line of credit, and you want to make those bigger ticket purchases like, a car, again, a home and things like that. If you don't have a good credit score, you're not going to get good interest rates, for one. Two, in a lot of cases, you may not be able to qualify for the loan that you want because you haven't displayed to the bank or the lender that you've done a good job of being able to handle your debt in a proper manner. That's how that can affect you down the line being able to do something for yourself. A good credit score, so in the bank's eyes, a good credit score would typically be anywhere from 660, I should say 680 and above. Yeah. 660 is like, it's more so borderline. But if you have a 680 and above credit score, that shows that you're in a fairly strong financial situation. Okay. 680 is like the golden number, I would say, for anyone looking into that is a good credit score.
What is the difference between like someone with like a 700 credit score and someone with an 800 credit score in terms of interest rates?
I wouldn't say there's a huge difference between 700 and 800. I think an 800 score is someone who might be a bit older or has a longer track record of dealing with credit and having credit. Yeah. And their profile might be a little bit more robust in terms of paying those debts off in a timely manner, keeping those balances to a zero or to a minimum. Yeah. Someone with a 700 score is it's a great score, but you might be a little bit young in your career or in your that place in life where you're utilizing credit. So that would be the main difference. And then of course, making payments. One aspect of it is making payments in a timely manner. Yeah. The other aspect is utilization. So you could have you could be making your payments on a monthly basis in time, but let's say you have like $1,000 limit on your card and you're sitting at $900, $800, or even $1,000 limit. You're on the brink of like overutilizing, right? And that's going to bring your credit score down. Yeah. So those are two aspects that I would say.
That's kind of someone who doesn't understand the credit game. Yeah. Technically, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're overutilizing and you think, well, I make my minimum payments or I'm good, I'm doing things in a timely manner. Yeah. No, that's not the case. You got to make sure that the limits are down as well. Yeah. The balances are down as well.
What about in terms of what someone would qualify for from like a 700 to 800? Is there really a difference in terms of things someone 700 can't qualify for versus like 800?
Well, I can tell you from a mortgage perspective, like in the space that I'm in, It doesn't make a huge difference. What makes the real difference is we look at it's more of a holistic approach.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at the clients, not just their credit score. We're going to look at how much debt do they actually have, right? Weighted against their income. How much income are they making?
Yeah.
And then when you're qualifying for like a mortgage, purchase, refinance, or a line of credit, what is that golden number that you're looking for, right? If you're looking for a higher number, then 800 credit score would help you out, but it's going to be based on a number of different factors, right? The utilization, your score, your income, your savings, your assets, if you have any stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all of those things play into it, right? So again, between 7 to 800, like if you're 700, you're good, you're Gucci, you don't need to worry about anything. If you're 800 plus, hey, that's just a cherry on top. The bank, you can say to the bank, listen, they're a AAA client because they've taken really good care of their credit, right? So that can help in certain things like getting an exception from the bank for like a high ratio mortgage. Like if you're kind of like, if you're teetering on the borderline, we can say, hey, listen, they're 800 plus credit score. Give them a chance because they've shown they have a proven track record of being able to maintain their debts.
Got it. So I kind of want the audience to get a better idea of who you are. Ooh. So before we move further on with the financial literacy questions, so I want to ask you, how did you get into the mortgage industry? Why mortgages versus being a realtor or any other profession?
Right. So for me, like, and people who know me know this, but for those of you that don't, my dad started doing mortgages back in, I want to say, the late 90s. So he's kind of a pioneer in the industry. He showed me the trade and showed me the benefits of being able to do it and really trying to educate people on financial literacy as a whole, not just in mortgages. So that kind of brought me into the space, I'd say. Like I said, I entered in 2014. I've been doing it ever since then. So he's really the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
So what are some common questions you get from first-time homebuyer clients?
Common questions I get from first-time homebuyers really is, I guess the golden question is always, how much can I afford? That's when I say, well, you know what, we need to sit down and have a broader conversation about that. I need to look at your entire financial portfolio to tell you what you can afford. If you need to do something differently, we can tweak things here and there. It's a broader conversation to have. Definitely, how much can I afford? And then obviously the second one would be, what are the interest rates right now? What are the best interest rates? And my goal is always to give them the best possible outcome with what they have, versus just saying, hey, I'm going to get you this rate because you're good enough for that, or I can get you a $2 million mortgage because that's what I'm capable of. I don't look at it like that. It's this is what you can afford. This is where you are right now in your life, and down the line, how can we get you to where you want to be, right? To that, I'd say, Vince, we give good interest rates. We give to our clients all the time. But the main thing is, like, what is your situation and how can we help you get to your goal, right? Because every client is different. Every person's financial situation is different. Every aspect of what they do in terms of their employment, in terms of their savings, and what their obligations are to family, it's different for everybody. So we're a solutions-based brokerage, I would say.
What are some tips you have dealing with probably a lot of clients in this category for the person that hopes to buy a home one day, that has minimal savings today, and probably makes like $50K at a 9-to-5 job? What would you tell that person?
I'd say, I'd say, well, first of all, get those savings up. Right? I know it's tough. It's easier said than done. Listen, I'm about to be 33 years old this year. Throughout my 20s, what I would say was a mistake of mine would have been that I kind of overspent without really taking into consideration what my long-term goals were. In terms of savings, in terms of buying a home, what my affordability is. So I know it's easier said than done, but if I had any piece of advice for any young people out there, I would say really focus, your efforts on saving that money. You're young in your career, you'll be making more eventually down the line, but it's important to lay the foundation now so that you can set yourself up for a better future in the long term, versus just blowing all your money at the club, or just trying to impress your friends or whoever it is that you want to impress. It's not worth it, I'd say. It's definitely, you're playing a long game with your future, and if that's what you're going to do and you intend to be around for a while, saving has to be a key component of your overall financial health.
Well said. Yeah.
By the way, these questions are not pre-recorded or anything. He's asking me on the spot, so trying to answer as best I can.
Doing a great job, bro.
Thanks, man.
So in your opinion, do you have to own the home that you live in to build wealth?
No, that's a great question, actually. I don't think you need to own, a home off the bat to be able to build wealth. Just from my personal experience, I've been married for 2 years. That entire time, my wife and I were renting. Because it helped us with the cash flow situation. We were able to save more. and B, we weren't, sort of strapped in terms of having to pay a mortgage. We could just live our lives and enjoy it. I would say renting, especially for a young couple or young people, is certainly the way to go. In our community, obviously, a lot of people tend to live with their parents until they reach that age where they're going to get married. Take full advantage of that. Like save as much as you can. You don't have to pay a mortgage. You don't need to pay rent to your parents, I assume. You don't have hydro and heating to pay for. You're kind of set in that regard. All you need to do is focus on saving. So no, you definitely don't need to own anything outright. Like I said, from personal experience, I would say you should rent. Look into the pros of renting because it's going to help you down the line being able to save money and getting into that house that you want or that place that you want to buy a lot quicker than what you can get right now, because in a lot of cases you may not be able to afford anything right now. And I know the bank of mom and dad is always something that we talk about. Yeah. They're going to help you out a little bit, but
not everyone has that either.
Not everyone has that. Not everyone has that, and not everyone's situation is different, right? Ultimately, you don't want to be a burden to your family either, right? Like your parents have worked hard enough where they put you in a place to succeed because now you're working, you're well into your career. So I'd say focus on saving every dollar that you can. And if renting is a part of that financial journey, then so be it. Renting is part of it. I think it's a great investment vehicle, if anything, to be able to get you where you want to go. I did it myself. I did it for 2 years, and my wife and I were happy. Thankfully, today we're homeowners now because we were able to save while renting.
What is your honest opinion on investment properties?
I'm not here to say that rental properties are a bad idea by any means. I've got friends, family, and clients who all have multiple rentals. I think it really depends, and what it comes down to is, what are you looking to achieve with those rentals and how much are you expecting to make, right? There's a big difference between you buying an investment property in the GTA where most likely, you're not going to be, making a cash flow positive investment on it. You'll be lucky to break even, right? Versus you going to somewhere like a Windsor or
Sudbury.
A Sudbury or a Hamilton where, you might be cash flow positive. Now, you got to think about, are you willing to make those drives down to make sure that the tenants are doing what they're supposed to be doing? You're willing to upkeep the property. All of those things it's sweat equity, it's time, it's money. So, if you're in a position where you have the time to be able to allocate to things like that, that's great. I'm all for it. Me personally, I'm not fully invested in the idea that real estate is the only way to make money. I know these last couple of years we've kind of been spoiled in the real estate market, right? Prices were going up and up and up, and now we're in a situation where values are tanking. We haven't seen it this low in years, and this is, as we're shooting this in June of 2025, the market looks like it's going to be in more of a decline in the summer months to come. So it's great. It's a great time to buy. Yeah. I just don't think it's ever a great time to gauge when it's right to buy an investment property.
Yeah.
So if you are going to do that, make sure it's a price point that you feel is suitable for you to be able to at the very least, break even on the property.
Yeah. Yeah. Or cash flow.
If you can, which is rare these days in the GTA, right?
Yeah.
So
you gotta go to Windsor or something. Right?
Yeah, you gotta go to Windsor, and again, I've got friends who have a bunch of properties in places like that, and they're very happy with it, and they have management teams kind of taking care of that for them. It all depends. It comes down to the individual. Like if that's something that you're like, well, I can definitely handle that. More power to you. Go ahead and do it. But I feel like for me personally, I'm at a point in my life where I have to invest time in my business and my family where I wouldn't be able to take those trips. It's more of a mental headache for me. Mm-hmm. So that's me being completely transparent with that. Like I just don't want the headache of thinking what's going on with my property. Is it going to burn down? Right? Again, that's just kind of that's just a personal view on it. But again, you're going to find so many success stories out there. And I'm sure people like the audience themselves, you've seen a bunch of people out there who are very successful, highly successful in having rental properties and continuing to build that portfolio. And that's something we help people do every day as well. So, all the more power to you if that's the case.
So if you were starting all over and didn't own real estate, how much of your household income would you allocate towards housing costs? You can talk about what the lenders look for versus like the after tax, like your actual cash flow, right? Like how much would you allocate?
Towards like
a mortgage.
Towards a mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're buying.
I guess in terms of like an affordability standpoint, the banks have like their golden numbers, like, it shouldn't exceed, 40%, 50%, 60% of your household income. Mm-hmm. I know in this market, Vint, it's super tough because, we grew up where affordability for our parents were a bit easier than it is for us today, right? Yeah. Like I look at the semi-detached bungalow that I grew up in Scarborough. At that time, my parents maybe bought it for like $250,000. Yeah. Now, when I look on House Sigma today, that property is going for like $1 million, right? Yeah. And how do you justify, those types of prices? I think it's up to us to kind of get out of that.
Wages haven't gone up, right?
Yeah, our wages haven't gone up. They haven't gone up.
Yeah.
They definitely haven't gone up enough to be able to justify that price point.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's like, it's up to us to kind of get out of that headspace that, okay, well, I need to own this detached 2-garage, 3-garage home in the suburbs because that's what my parents wanted for me, or that's what I had growing up, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I think if you can do that and your finances, you know, call for it, that's great. But from a personal standpoint, because you're asking me this question, I'm going to give you my personal answer.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, life is too short for you to be tied up in, you know, in that dream of, well, I just need to have a big house.
Yeah.
Right? I've learned over the years that
Because that's what all your friends and family.
because that's
right?
that's what they
what
want.
they'll do.
That's what they
Yeah.
want for you,
Yeah.
and maybe you know, deep down inside that might be what you want for yourself. And if you're willing to put 60% of your salary towards, you know, the house because you feel like I'm just gonna ride it out and whatever, good for you. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I think there should be a happy medium where, you know, you need to see what your financial situation is and decide with, you know, either yourself or your partner or your family. Okay, hey, I'm making XYZ a month, you know, 50% of that money I'm okay to put towards a mortgage. The other 50% I want to save, I want to invest, I want to travel, I want to do things for myself, I want to do things for my family. That's a good way to kind of gauge it. Everybody is different though, right? Like we could be sitting here having this conversation and people might look at this and say, well, I don't agree with that because, you know, if I put more into my home now, down the line, it's going to be worth more for me, and I'll be in a better situation at that time to be able to, you know, kind of maybe, you know, leverage my home and leverage my mortgage, and I can use it for other things later on down the line. That's great. That's totally fine. I'm all for it. So I think it's a bit of an arbitrary answer I'm giving. Like, you know, it's really up to you as an individual, as a consumer. Only you know what you're going to be comfortable with. For me, it's all about a happy medium. You know, can I still put money towards a mortgage, live in a decent home, and can I, you know, take care of my family? Can I take care of my bills? Can I take care of my partner? You know, and do the things that we want to do. As long as I'm able to do that and I'm capable, I'm fine with that. But again, everyone's going to kind of look at that differently, and if they do, that's also totally fine. It's completely up to them, right?
What are your thoughts on people FOMOing into buying a house?
Oh man, no,
Do you see that?
Yeah, for sure. Like
that?
I see people pulling the trigger. Like I've
Even though, like you said, the market's in a decline, do you see that people? Because before, for a while, it was now's your chance to get in.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a personal example, right?
Yeah.
So in 2000 and I want to say 22 or 23, there was this project you might be familiar with, Event. It's called Seton Mulberry. It's in Pickering, a beautiful subdivision of homes that you know, the builder was. I think it was like Opus Homes, Mattamy, a few different builders were involved in that. And at that time, because the market was so hot in early 2022, 2023, it was so hot at that time that people were literally having to bid or get into a lottery system to be able to buy.
Yeah.
So I also entered that system where like my wife and I had like 4 laptops going.
Yeah.
We were trying to find something. We're hoping we can get something for a decent price, and we didn't get it.
Yeah.
And you know, it was kind of like disappointing at the time. Like, well, you know, what are we gonna do? We can't even buy a home, right?
Is there like bots and stuff trying to get these?
I'm sure there was probably people trying to use bots to get a home. There,
Really?
right?
That's crazy.
Because I had like, you know, I've had a few clients who ended up landing there, and you know, friends or family who ended up buying in those projects, and they were fortunate enough to be able to get it.
Yeah.
I wasn't that fortunate.
Yeah. So was it a good price?
It was a great price. Yeah.
Okay.
Even now, if you look at it, I still think, you know, it's a good buy.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's like quality like builders and stuff.
Yeah,
too,
certainly,
right?
certainly.
Yeah.
Quality builder, quality build. They built the homes in a timely manner, and people were able to get in when the builder said they would get in, which is easier said than done these days.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was super excited for the people who had bought, but I was also disappointed for myself and my partner because we weren't able to get something that we wanted, right? But that all stemmed from FOMO of getting into the market. I didn't realize that, listen, there's so many other options out there. Yes, it might not be, you know, this cookie cutter, you know, suburban detached subdivision home, but there was a bunch of other options out there that we could have looked into that we didn't consider because I kind of had the tunnel vision of, well, you know, I need to get something now like this, otherwise it's going to be too late. Yeah. Right? Which wasn't the case. We ended up waiting it out. Like I told you before the interview, my wife and I ended up buying something that we, you know, suitable for us, that we're super happy with, and I didn't need to go and open up 10 laptops to try and get into this like lottery system to find a home, because ultimately that's unfair to the consumer. It's unfair to yourself, putting that undue pressure on yourself to say, hey, I need to get something right now. And not everyone's the same, right? Like, not just because your friends are buying in XYZ neighborhood doesn't mean that you need to do the same thing. Your situation, your goals, your financial freedom is going to be very based on what you want out of life. You shouldn't take into consideration what anyone else is doing or what anyone else is saying to you. Your thoughts, your goals, your viewpoints are going to be very different, because at the end of the day, a home is the biggest investment of your life, right? And you need to take a lot of time and a lot of effort into understanding what you really want, because things are going to change all the time, right? You might want that home today, but maybe a few months from now, you're like, well, I'm not really feeling it. Now imagine if you bought that place and you're like, well, why did I buy this house? I don't really need to be here, right? I could have had something cheaper and enjoyed myself a little bit more in life. So again, it really depends on the individual, but I'd say FOMO is something that you gotta let go of. I always tell like my clients or my friends and family, like, get into something now if you want to just start and build up. Buy a condo, buy something that's in your price range that helps you build equity down the line. I know the condo market is super down right now. That's fine. Buy a condo, right? At least you can start building equity in the place to get to something that you want to maybe get to down the line. Maybe like 5-10 years from now you'd buy a house, right? But at least you got into something to be able to say, hey, like, we started somewhere. But the FOMO of buying something just because everyone else is buying it, no, like, don't do that. That's going to be financial ruin for you, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you're shaking it at home and you're happy, but you're like, money's not tight, but it's not right. And that's not a situation you want to be in.
And you have to give up everything that you
earn.
Your whole lifestyle is gone, right?
Like, no more trips to Cancun or the Dominican Republic or, going to Italy, Greece. Like, those things, like, you kind of have to take a back seat to that because you're in this binding contract where you have to pay your mortgage. And, if you don't
even
pay
then,
it,
you still probably can't afford it.
And
right?
even then, you can't afford it, right? Like, it's you're just scraping by. And so I think, having this conversation with you now, it's because this is what the market is, and this is what people are this is what their headspace is as of today, right? Unfortunately, I think you're doing a great job, bro, of like actually asking these questions, because I feel like we do need to change the mindset a little bit and tell people, listen, it's okay for you to scale back. You don't need to have this specific type of home or this specific lifestyle, because ultimately, like, it's your health. Your mental health is really important at the end of the day, and you should wake up happy with
your quality of life.
And your quality of life, like, your quality of life should not go down because you feel like you need to get into a home. So the FOMO thing, I'm totally against it. And I don't appreciate when this is like it's being pushed in the market to, like, not just younger people, older people too, that you have to buy this, otherwise it's going to be gone. Like, it's never coming back. Like, take advantage of this.
You can't build wealth if you don't buy right now.
Yeah, you can't build wealth if you can't buy right. Like, you need to stand in line for 2 days to buy a home. Like, it's a joke to me. I don't think the government as of right now is doing a great job of helping out young first-time home buyers or giving people financial relief in that aspect. I hope that changes. I'd always say play it safe, play the long game. Do what's best for yourself, because only you know what's best for yourself, right?
If you had to pick one thing, what's the single piece of information that's had the biggest impact on your financial life?
That's a good question, man. I definitely got to think about that one. I guess I wouldn't say it's a single thing. I think for me, Vint, it's been the series of lessons and, maybe if you want to call them screw-ups, you can call it that I've gone through over the years that have helped me get to where I am today. Not that I'm some successful person. I just feel like I'm someone who has a better understanding of what financial literacy is. And that definitely comes with age, that comes with time, and that comes with you taking the effort to really understand what your situation is compared to everybody else's.
Also self-awareness.
Yeah, self-awareness too, right? Like, what do I really want, right? I'm not really looking at what anyone else has going on. I'm just trying to focus on what me and my family need. I wouldn't say it was one singular thing. Rather, it was a series of things that I've had to go through in life, just financially, to be able to get to where I am today. Maybe making bad investments, maybe, overspending, overutilizing, not saving enough. Those things that I did, in my younger days, in my 20s, I learned from that time in my life, where today I can say, okay, hey, like, I have a better understanding of what I'm supposed to be doing to set myself up for the future. When you're that young, you don't really think about your future all that much. You're kind of living in the moment.
Trust me.
And so I'd say the biggest thing has been time and age, right? That helped me. Being older, being wiser.
Imagine knowing what you know now at 18. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
you're a millionaire right now, right?
At that time, like, hindsight is 2020, right, bro? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of things, and we talked off camera about this. Like, there's a lot of things that you did when you were younger that you wish you could take back, but it's not. I wish I, maybe even did a different program in university. I wish I took my studies more seriously. I wish a million different things that I had done, back then that I couldn't have seen until today.
Yeah.
Because we just weren't in that headspace at the time to be able to understand that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're probably the same way.
Yeah,
If I could flip it back on you, what
yeah.
would you say is the single most important thing that you learned?
That's a great question.
You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer.
No, I'll answer. I think the biggest thing would probably be really budgeting and taking accountability, and we'll get into budgeting and cash flows and emergency funds. Focusing on not having unnecessary like credit card debt, living on below your means.
Yeah,
it's the hardest thing to do, living on below your means. That's how you build wealth, right?
Yeah,
you have to live on below your means, and
Yeah.
it's hard when society is built on consumerism.
Yeah. Oh man, tell me about it. This could be a whole topic in itself, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. For me, like I'm gone are the days of the designer and things like that. Like I don't wear any designer.
Yeah.
I shop at Uniqlo if I can on sale.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I shop at Uniqlo or I shop vintage. Like I just try to get a deal where I can because it doesn't like that stuff.
Winners
is amazing.
Yeah.
Love Winners. I found it actually. If you're interested, I found a cool. My wife introduced me to a Winners on Yonge Street. It's like in Midtown.
Yeah.
But they have an incredible vintage rack where like you can get pieces that they've been worn, but like they're still in good condition.
They've been loved, right? They've been loved, right?
Yeah, they've been loved.
Previously loved, right?
Yeah, previously loved, but you can love them now.
Yeah.
You know, just go home, throw it in the washer, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So things like that. Like you can find a nice like polo short for like $5, $6. Like,
Yeah.
Like you can't go wrong with that type of deal.
Yeah.
So cost cutting like that, I think it's important. Cook meals at home. Try not to eat out so much. I think my biggest expense or our biggest expense, I'd say, is we eat out because we love to eat.
Trust me, being in a relationship, bro.
Yeah, being in a relationship, it's like it's quality time, it's bonding time.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Tempting.
You could also
it's really tempting.
It's very tempting. It's easy to just go out, hop in your car, and go to Rick's Good Eats or go to like this diner or my wife and I, we like to go to Markham Station.
Yeah.
At Markham and Shepherd there because it's kind of like a nostalgic feel for us.
Yeah.
And so it's cool. You should be able to do those things. But that kind of ties back into what I'm saying about if you live within your means, you can do those things more rather than having to pay for your mortgage and like you're strapped and you're saying like, well, we can't even eat out now because like we have to pay a mortgage. Like you don't want to live that way.
You lose out on the quality time.
You lose out on the quality time.
Right?
You lose out on that, right? And that can take a strain on not just your mental, but like your relationship as well, right? And you don't want that to be the case.
Do you have a budget?
I have a monthly budget,
Yeah.
definitely, because I have a mortgage to pay now. So I definitely budget myself to cater around that one singular expense that I have at my home. So my wife and I, we sit down once a month and just go over what we need to be doing, like, financially. As long as the bills are paid for, we're okay. But I do have a singular number that I need to make.
Yeah.
And I'm self-employed, so I need to make sure I hit those targets every month. Some months are lower than others. Some months are better. There's variance. So every household is different. But I'd say, you need to have a budget, not just because you have expenses, but how much are you saving, right? How much money are you putting away on a monthly basis to be able to have a nest egg for your retirement? Maybe you want to have an education fund for your children down the line. Just retirement money in general. That time's going to come where we can't work anymore or we don't want to work anymore. And how are you going to generate income at that time? I think that's a big aspect of like the monthly budget should be how much are you saving on a monthly basis to get to where you want to go.
That was like my biggest mistake in my 20s, right? No budgeting, just spending, like money's falling from the sky.
I was going to say the exact same thing, bro. I was going to say the same thing because you know what? Like when I was single and I was unmarried. So single being unmarried, which is like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I wasn't budgeting all that much because I was still living at home with my mom and dad. Yeah. Definitely I had it easy, I would say. So once I got married, and we're both living together, and now it's like, okay, we're off on our own. We have rent to pay. We have our joint bills to pay, utilities. All those things that are coming out of our pocket, we were forced into a situation where we have to budget. Because again, our parents didn't sit us down and say, well, hey, kids, you need to budget on a monthly basis for this and this. They've had those initial financial conversations. I grew up in a household like a lot of South Asian kids do where, we don't have enough of those conversations.
Yeah.
So it's when I got married and we're off on our own now that we sat down and said, okay, this is what we need to be doing to get to where we want to go. So that didn't come until closer to 30 is when I really started to budget myself and my partner as well.
Yeah, and I also think as millennials, we have more temptation with consumer-driven
Oh,
society versus our parents,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. I mean, they didn't grow up with Instagram and things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I know our parents are on Facebook, but like you're not really buying much on Facebook. You're
yeah.
kind of being sold a dream, but on Instagram, it's like there's ads
Every
for
second
this
there's
and-
something.
Yeah,
You
there's
can't-
something. Like someone's going on vacation, and that's the thing, man. Like I know this is kind of a financial conversation, and
Yeah.
I'm veering off a bit.
Yeah.
But with Instagram, you're seeing all the good aspects of people's lives.
Yeah.
No one's posting the things that they don't want you to see, right? So you got to remember, you're only seeing half of everything. Like you're not getting a full picture.
Yeah.
So don't think that, oh, like, man, like, you know, everyone else on Instagram is having so much fun and doing this and doing that. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but, you know, that's not reality, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
They're posting their highlights. That's
yeah,
why
they're
it's called
posting their highlights. Yeah, that's why it's called a highlight. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head, man.
Yeah.
So that's another thing where, like, I feel like things like social media really can screw with your financial goals because you're being sold a dream on there that's not real. It's just a dream.
Yeah.
And so you think that you should be doing the same thing, and you know,
And you have that subconscious pressure to.
Yeah, you got that pressure. Like everyone else is doing it, I should be. I need to, you know, drive a new, you know, Mercedes Benz or a BMW. I need to be buying that, like, you know, Louis Vuitton belt or whatever the case may be. Like all that tangible stuff that means absolutely nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's what you want to avoid.
Yeah,
You know?
100%. What is your biggest money mistake?
Biggest money mistake, I would say, you know, and I'm not old enough to have made like ridiculously like terrible decisions with money.
Yeah.
But I'd say, I guess just the micro tears in my financial, you know, literacy, like spending on things I didn't need to be spending on. Like, I know I go back to this, but going out to eat, you know, if you tally up your bills of how much you really go out to eat, you're probably spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month.
I had a pizza problem, bro. Trust me.
See, there you go.
Huge pizza problem.
Well, you're a Domino's guy. Domino's.
Yo,
Yeah,
this guy
see, there
knew
you
it.
go. I knew.
This guy knew it, bro.
I come from that same boat where
You know
it's like,
you know the tracker, the pizza tracker. You get the
Yeah,
free pizza.
right.
Shit. They get you, bro. There's a
You wanted
reason
to
why
take advantage of
Domino's
that.
is the biggest pizza chain in the world,
right.
bro.
Yeah, there you go. See. So I like Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
So I'm
you're a Pizza Hut guy.
Pizza Hut guy.
So have you been getting the $2?
Yeah, my wife brought that home the other day.
Yeah.
That's fine, right?
Yeah, that's $2.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Where are you
$2.
gonna find food for $2?
That is something you could have never foreseen because like you don't think about it.
Yeah.
So I would say to young people, like, try to curb. If you're gonna eat out, try to do it like once a week.
Yeah.
Right? Try to maybe max twice.
Yeah.
I get weekends are fun and you want to go out, like
Yeah.
do it then, save it for then, but be very, very strict with yourself during the week, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then the other thing I'd say is, I guess I would call myself a bit of an asshole. I was, you know, in my 20s. I think I didn't, like, I wanted to buy a designer belt and I wanted to, like,
Bro,
you
me
know.
too. I had a phase. I had a designer
Yeah,
belt phase.
right?
I never
I
ended up going through with it.
Yeah.
But I wanted that, like,
Man,
what's it called?
The Ferragamo belt.
Ferragamo.
Yeah. So I
Exactly.
had a
Ferragamo, bro.
Ferragamo belt and, like, at that time, everyone's like, you gotta have a designer belt. Like, you know, like, Tama guys know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you kind of do that thing.
You see the photos and then you're like, yo, that looks sick.
Yeah,
yo.
it looks dope. And
It's
like,
what is it, like 8 bills? Like,
I think closer to 8 to 1,000. And, you know, you go to Yorkdale Mall and you get the experience and, you know, they give you a Brita water or something. And, you know, like.
This is fascinating. I
Yeah.
never actually went through with it. You know,
so I'm giving you the play-by-play, right? So when I went, I went and they size you the belt, so they'll cut a hole in it to make sure it fits you.
Yeah.
And then they treat you like royalty, and then, you know, you swipe your credit card. And now I'm thinking like $1,000 on a belt. Like, yeah, fine, the quality is good, but you know, they say made in Italy when now we know after this tariff war that most stuff is made in China.
Yeah.
And then they just ship it over there to put a stamp on it that says made in Italy and then they give it to you, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's fucked.
It's blind consumerism, right?
Yeah.
It's insane. So things like that is like, I wish I knew what I know now back then because I wouldn't have done any of that if I knew now that this is the case, right?
Yeah.
I still
we
have
have
some
more
of those
access
things.
to information now.
Yeah, we have a lot more access, which is great.
Younger generation has kind of a leg up.
Yeah,
obviously affordability of things, the cost of living and stuff is what it is, but like they have a leg up in terms of information. So it's like, you know, I think we're in the middle. We're kind of in the middle.
We're in that middle generation where like we didn't grow up like I grew up in the sandbox, bro. I never had a cell phone. Like kids these days have tablets and cell phones and things like that. It's got its pros and cons for kids today, but I think those were the biggest mistakes I made financially were spending on things that I really just did not need.
Yeah.
If I had just set all that money aside and just put it into something and just forgotten about it, today, I mean, who knows? It could have been tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars if I put it into the right investment.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's what I would say, like, especially for younger people. Like, I know you want that cool new shiny thing now, But I guarantee you, I promise you, when you get to our age, it's not going to be worth it, and you wouldn't have cared for it to begin with, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you don't even need to slave away to even put that money away.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that
you
thing.
don't.
You don't even
It's
need
just,
to, like
it's just
10% even of
yeah.
your paycheck.
I think
or
it's a
whatever
mental
it is.
thing, right? You just
Yeah.
you just gotta like, okay, I'm gonna put it away. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do,
Yeah.
but that's what you have to.
Yeah. You're gonna blow that on something stupid anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
You can blow like 50% of your check on something stupid if you want. You
just don't blow the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Because you gotta live.
Yeah, yeah. Living
hard.
is learning at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
It's, a lot of that knowledge only comes with age.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
because a lot of people will hear this. Like, if we heard this in our 20s, we'd be like, "Yo, fuck, this is dumb."
yeah,
right?
yeah,
This is
yeah.
boring as
We'd
fuck.
probably be like, all right,
Yo,
yeah,
what the
whatever.
fuck?
They're just talking. Like, I don't care. But listen, like, I had people, older people. Well, I didn't really have an older brother or anything
Yeah.
to like advise me in that way. I'm the oldest in my family, out of all my cousins, and most of my cousins and things like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anybody that I could look to and say, oh, that person's doing the right thing that I should be kind of mimicking, other than my mom and dad.
Yeah.
If I could tell anybody who's younger now, I try to tell them, like, save. Don't fall into the trap of consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that can really save you down the line.
So, what would you say is your biggest money win?
Biggest money win, I would say, is probably the savings account that I had. If I didn't have that, I couldn't put a deposit on the home I have. If I didn't have that, I couldn't have cleared some of the debts I had in order to get to this position I'm in now.
How long did it take you to accumulate that, and how did you go about it?
Probably, I kind of depleted a lot of my savings
Yeah.
for a house, just,
Yeah.
in full transparency. But
Of course, yeah.
To get to that point, I've been working for 10 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the fact that I did put some money away, ever so seldomly, it still helped,
Yeah.
right? So having that, like, I guess, cushion that I have now helped me get into a home that I wouldn't have been able to do unless I had it.
Yeah.
So definitely saving. Like, for anybody, I would say, save, even if it's like, $100 a month, whatever, $50 a month. That is going to definitely help you down the line. So I would say definitely make sure you save for any situation. You need a rainy day fund, even if you're not using it towards a house, even if you're using it for something else, like you want to start a business, you need money. If you want to, pay off some credit card loans that you got too, overzealous on that, you can utilize that to do that, right?
Yeah.
So having tangible cash, I think, is still important. I think it's a worthy investment in today's day and age, especially at a time when people are, in crazy debt. So
Yeah, trust me, bro. I used to have the opposite mindset when, 2021, when like stock market's like going crazy and like you
Yeah.
can't lose and shit.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, wow, I keep money in cash. Like I'd put everything in the market, right?
Right.
You learn from that.
Yeah.
You learn that, you need to have an emergency fund. You need to
Yeah.
have cash because in an emergency, you don't want to sell out of your investments. You don't
Right.
want to have to put all your money into a house and have no savings left over.
Exactly.
And then you have no money. Now you have to swipe your credit card.
Yeah, I mean, even if something small like let's say you buy the house,
Yeah.
but you use everything and now you can't furnish the house, right? Like
Now you're
so,
going to put everything on your line of
yeah,
credit?
yeah. Now, like, because it costs at least $5 to $10K to furnish,
Yeah.
right? So, you're gonna sleep on the floor now that you have a
Yeah,
home? Like, it
yeah.
just right. So those are things that now, if you save and you
Yeah.
had some money set
People,
aside,
I feel like that's not like, having not purchased a house yet. Like, I feel like that's something that people overlook, right? Furnishing the house.
Yeah,
'Cause
for sure.
You're focusing 100% of your attention on buying the house
Right.
and affordability. And
Yep.
after the fact, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Now I got to live like in an unfurnished house for like
right.
months while I save up for
exactly
or go into
exactly.
debt, right?
Yeah, people don't know that. They don't talk. I mean, like, I talk about it with my
Yeah.
clients for
Yeah.
sure. So we always say, like, have 1 to 1.5% of your purchase price in closing costs set aside.
Yeah.
So that if you need to pay land transfer, if you need to pay lawyers' fees, legal fees, and whatever fees are associated with that, also that should cover your furniture costs too.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you need to have some furniture to move into.
Yeah.
So you should always have a cushion. Like, you shouldn't close and then have nothing left over.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So absolutely, yeah, definitely. Like, that's one aspect that people might want to know of that they didn't know before is
Yeah.
have some money set aside always for closing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it seems obvious, but it gets
Yeah, no,
overlooked,
it's
right?
I we don't think about it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I was obviously in my younger days, I didn't think about that. But
Yeah.
something that you live, you learn, bro.
Yeah.
Right.
Trust me. In your opinion, what is the best investment vehicle, or what has been the best investment vehicle for you?
Again, it's one of those things where I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, if I would ask you this question, Vince, you might say, like, I have certain stocks that I put my money into that I'm comfortable with, right? I'm like very risk averse.
Yeah.
So I don't like putting my things in anything that I feel is risky. So I put it in TFSAs, I put it in GICs, RRSPs, but I also have a TFSA where I have like a high yield. It's a high yield savings account that I put my money with a mortgage investment company. I'm in the mortgage industry, so I know this. The mortgage investment company essentially takes your money, leverages it against the bank's money that they lend out to customers, and they pay you a yield that comes in monthly, but it's going to be compounded, so you keep your money with them. I get about an 8 to 9% a year return, which I'm happy with. And if I have any more cash left over at the end of the year that I want to, put into that, I dump it back into there. That's my nest egg. That's what I kind of preach for anybody watching. Like, and you've had a conversation with me, I talk about this because I if anybody asks me that question, that's what I tell them. Where should I put my money? For me personally, again, because I am risk averse, I put it into a mortgage investment fund. I let that money sit. I know it's a safe investment because I'm familiar with the company. I know who they lend to and what they lend on.
Yeah.
And I just kind of set it and forget it. And I'm hoping down the line that it'll come back to pay me a good dividend when I need to pull it.
8 to 9% compounded for a long time is a lot of money, man.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
now,
that's a lot.
You're gonna get, like, no offense to some of the smartasses out there that are gonna tell you, well, if you put it in here, you'll get 25% or 20%. It's fine. I get it. But like again, like when you're
you can also
playing,
lose like
you can
50% of your money right there.
Especially when you're playing on the stock market, right? You've probably been through some hassle with the stock market.
Yeah.
And I'm at a place now where I do believe in like the S&P 500 ETF and things like that. I that's where I want to work towards.
Yeah.
But like from a personal standpoint of what I've gone through or what I've experienced,
Yeah.
I like having at least a safety net. So I'd say I would put it in the MIC, in the mortgage investment company, but I would also put it in like an S&P 500 and let it sit.
It's good to be diversified.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's different if like someone is just in a GIC.
Right. Yeah. That's like.
Then it's like versus like 8 to 9%. That's pretty on par with the S&P.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Right.
You know what I mean? That's pretty on par.
Yeah, it's on par, and you should be able to, like you said, it's important to diversify, bro. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Don't just put it into one thing. Diversify it, but like make sure it's not like heavily weighted on risk.
Yeah, the one thing I've learned from talking to different people is like everyone has a different risk profile.
Yeah.
That's why I like over the last few years, because my big thing is like educating people on the S&P, right?
Right.
People are obviously scared because they think the stock market's a scam or the stock market's like you're gonna lose all your money 100%. Well, yeah, that's if you put it in an individual stock.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
If you put it in the index. I mean, do you see Apple going bankrupt? Like,
No,
you know what I mean? Do you see McDonald's? You're spending money with them every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You're buying that new iPhone, right?
Yeah. 100%. And
they're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere. That's
they
why
can buy a country, right? So.
Yeah. There you go. They've got that much money, and they're not going to be tanking anytime soon.
Yeah. You might as well invest in where you already consume, right?
Yeah. That's how I looked at it. And like FYI for all the viewers, like I'm gonna put my money in S&P because Vince told me he convinced me to do it. So I'm gonna open up a portfolio just for that.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for that, bro.
Yeah. Appreciate it. So how much of your money do you save per month? And how much of that do you invest, I guess, put into the investment vehicle?
Right now, like I'd say I try to save at least 10% of my monthly salary and put it towards, savings.
Yeah.
See, because I'm in a commission-based role, my income varies.
Yeah.
So I can't say that it's going to be a dollar amount every month.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
gonna put
percentage,
away.
right?
It's a percentage of what I make.
Yeah.
So I take that percentage based on whatever I make for that month.
Yeah.
Or for that commission period. And I put it away, based on, what my finances call for the month.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little bit tighter now because I'm a homeowner, but I would say, that 10% mark for me is a sweet spot for now. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to change down the line. Maybe it goes up, maybe it goes down. I don't know. But I'd say 10% is in my position right now. That's what I can come up with.
Yeah.
And I'm also fortunate that my partner also she has a 9-to-5 job. So between the two of us, we can kind of like manage our finances in a way where if she needs to put more away, then we can do that. If I need to put more away at a certain time, then we can do that. So we kind of leverage each other.
Yeah. How much of that would you put like into like a liquid savings or GIC or something, and how much would you put into the MIC?
So
right?
So the MIC, because it's a locked-in investment,
Yeah.
I don't put into it every month.
Okay.
You target that at the end of the year.
Got it. Okay.
Based on whatever I put into my savings.
You got it. Yeah.
Right. And so
how much of the
up.
savings do you like? How much of the savings do you take out?
I try not to touch the savings at all.
Oh, okay.
Like now I'm going to, because again we had the conversation about the S&P.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be putting it into the S&P, into a small investment vehicle. Yeah. For me, it was like put it in the MIC, keep it in savings for a rainy day type of thing in case we need it.
Yeah.
But
like emergency fund. Yeah, I'll get it. That's the question. That's the whole question.
Yeah, right. So the emergency fund is always going to be there.
Yeah.
But again, I do want to diversify a little bit more. Knowing what I know now about the S&P and
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
and you know the stock market in general.
Yeah, especially with Trump giving us all these opportunities.
Yeah, there you go, right? So, you know, it's not like US markets are always going to be up. You know, I think their economy is just it's so efficient in the way
Yeah.
it runs
Yeah.
that you don't want to hedge against, you know, the US economy.
Yeah. Canada is more for fixed income, really, like
Yeah.
banks and stuff.
Right.
But the U.S. is where all the growth is. Right?
Yeah.
Their economy is structured in a way that it benefits.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Versus here, it's like, yo, I'm surprised Shopify's still here. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Shopify, like we're lucky that Shopify's even staying
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Right now.
Still, thankfully, a Canadian company, right?
Yeah. The companies that are in the S&P, like the biggest companies in the world, they're global, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean?
They're operating all over the world. So again, you can't go wrong with that.
That goes into the next question. What do you know about the stock market in your 20s? Like, what did you hear about it? What were your what was your perception of it?
Right.
And like, why did you not dabble in, or if you did or not? Yeah.
So, like again, like you know, I'm giving you like the full transparent, you know,
Yeah.
picture of what my financial situation is in terms of stocks.
Yeah.
I'm a newbie in stocks. I still don't know much about it. I'm not gonna know as much as you probably ever.
But that's the average. That's the average person.
That's the average person, right? Yeah. Like I have clients who are like heavily in it, and in the last couple of years, I bought a Tesla in like 2020, and I became like a Tesla fanboy.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, well, Tesla's this great stock, blah, blah, blah. And thankfully, I got in early. So I was able to kind of benefit from having Tesla stock. So I invested in Tesla, in Apple, in Nvidia early on, which I didn't take. I wish I didn't take that money out, but I did.
Yeah.
And Disney as
Yeah.
well. So those were probably like four of the biggest, you know, stocks that I had invested in.
Yeah.
You know, I was on a SPY ticker as well.
Yeah.
But not much in there. My knowledge of it was very seldom. What I did know was a lot of what my brother had kind of like coached me on and told me about, because he's you know very financially literate, I would say. Financially literate, not illiterate. He taught me a little bit about it, but like again my focus wasn't there, and you know there's just so much to know about the stock market that
Trust me.
I really don't know much about it. But touches back to what we just spoke about earlier. You said like you use these things on a daily basis, invest in them. That was my thinking, was like I buy Apple, I drive a Tesla, right? Like these are things I use on a daily basis.
Yeah, that applies to, I don't know if you've heard the term like Mag 7, Magnificent 7.
Oh, no,
it's like the top 7 companies in the world. That's
Right.
like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, Nvidia, and then I feel like I'm missing something obvious.
I had a Taiwan Semiconductor. I don't know if
Amazon.
that was Amazon.
There we go. Yeah. Taiwan. Yeah. For me personally, I never bought Nvidia because I don't fully understand it. I know it's like going to go up forever.
Yeah.
And it's going to probably outpace everything else. But I've been there where I just bought the hot thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know it's probably going to go up like 1,000%.
Yeah.
But instead I own Amazon because I understand Amazon.
Right.
I love Amazon,
Yeah.
right? Or like Google. Yeah, I think the thing that people don't understand is, I guess, the scary thing is obviously like when you get in at a good price, it's great. But you could also buy Tesla at the top. You could also buy Apple at the top, and then it crashes.
Yeah.
And let's say you put 20 grand into it. So it's like, I think it applies, like what you know applies to the big tech companies.
Right.
But like if it's like a I don't know, like a smaller company that's like in the middle phase of its lifespan,
Yeah.
and it's not as mature, that could also go south. Which
Right.
is
Oh,
why
yeah,
the
100%.
index is,
It's-
you're safe. The work
yeah,
is done
steady.
for you, because
Right.
if a company stops performing, they get kicked out of the S&P.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So I just learned something today.
Yeah.
About the
right.
S&P.
Like for example, like I don't know what was big like back in the day. Like let's just say, I think IBM's still in the S&P, but like let's just say IBM isn't as big as it used to be. Right. It would get kicked out. Right. If it's not as profitable, if it doesn't, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't meet its targets.
Exactly,
Then it doesn't-
right?
it gets
So it's
kicked out.
like, that's something that I think most people don't know. I think most people think the stock market is stocks.
Yeah. And just
Right?
volatile. It's just volatility.
It's volatility, and you're going to lose all your money. Yeah, because to actually buy a stock, like to invest, is really to do the work and see what it's valued at and buy it, you know, buy low, sell high, or buy low and hold, right? But to know what it's worth, you have to kind of do like a cash flow. Like it's all this like complicated stuff that the average person was not going to be able to do or even be interested in doing.
Right.
Because essentially the stock price is the present value of the future cash flow of the business.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, right.
So like the stock price will change every second, right? But like, for example, like that's how you can tell if something's undervalued or overvalued, right?
Right.
But like I only learned this in like the last year and a half, 2
Right.
years.
Yeah.
I didn't know this even in like 2019, right?
Yeah.
So you just buy something, oh, it's going up, you buy it, right? Essentially it's speculation.
Yeah.
Hopefully it works out.
Yeah, you're
You know?
hoping.
If you're holding for the long term, it could work out, but there's like companies that that were like really, I forget, I'm blanking out, but like they were really good in the tech boom in the early 2000s that don't exist anymore.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And they were the biggest companies.
Yeah.
So that's the scary part. That's why it's good
Right.
to be risk averse
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
You
exactly,
know what I mean?
exactly. Which I am, but
Yeah.
again, I think it's more so the knowledge. Like I'm learning things today, right now, in this conversation that I didn't know before I spoke to you about it.
Yeah.
Right. So educating people is a big aspect of that.
Yeah.
But that's part of the financial freedom game, right? So
Yeah. Have you heard of like VFE? Do you know what VFE is?
VF.
So that's like the ETF that basically tracks the S&P in Canadian dollars.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned the SPY ticker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess that's like the that's the index, but like that's like probably like $4,000 or something, right?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
$5,000.
This one was specifically, I think it was.
VOO? Was it VOO?
I believe so.
Yeah, VOO is the US dollars.
The US, okay, the USD account. Yes.
So VFE is the Canadian dollar one. So you don't lose the money on the conversion.
Okay.
You know
That's good. That's better to put into then.
Yeah, that's what I tell everybody. People that earn a U.S. income that live in Canada, you VOO is there, right? But if you don't want to convert your money, you buy VFE, and obviously the ETF is more efficient because if you don't have the money to spread your money across the Magnificent Seven, like the Amazon, like you could also buy the Magnificent Seven and hold them for long term, and you probably do well.
Right.
But you run the risk of one of them falling out of the
right.
There used to be this thing called FANG. And like Netflix was a part of it, but then Netflix got kicked out of it because it wasn't in the top anymore.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah.
So you never know if something's gonna fall out of the Magnificent Seven, but if you buy the S&P, it's always gonna be weighted at the top.
It's gonna be the best.
The best companies are gonna be weighted the highest.
Right.
From the S&P, all the growth is coming from like the top, the tech companies. It's not really coming from the Walmart and the Costco's.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But though they're providing the stability.
Right. I love that. It gives me more confidence as a consumer to invest in S&P.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, because like I mean, all these companies are in Canada anyways, right?
Right. Yeah. They're all operating here. So I mean, I would like I've been thinking about it for a while, Vince, and I feel like that's the next step is to like actually go ahead and pull the trigger on something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Do you have an emergency fund, and what do you think about emergency funds? Like, what's your opinion on them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely, first of all, I think you should definitely have a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen in life, and life happens. It keeps happening constantly, right? Like there's things that are going to be thrown your way that you're not sure of, right? So having an emergency rainy day fund for sure, I think it's a good idea.
How much do you personally keep? Like, would you personally keep, like, in terms of expenses, like 3 months expenses, 6 months expenses?
Ideally, a comfortable buffer would definitely be 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? Especially
it's hard though. It's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done,
so
for sure. It's definitely hard, especially with living costs these days.
Yeah.
But I think if you're, in a situation where you have a dual income with like a partner or someone else, that would help offset some expenses. If you're a single person, it should be easier to hit that 6 month goal, right? If you're a single person living, I mean, your expenses are way down. In a dual income situation, try to aim for that 3 to 6 months if you can. Because, if you lose your job tomorrow, right, you're laid off, well, how are you going to pay your mortgage? You might have some type of insurance coverage. I think insurance is another piece of it that people should know about because that's going to help you long term as well if you run into a situation where you can't work, right?
Yeah.
So I have clients who, we're able to get them qualified for mortgages with disability income or, long-term disability insurance or just long-term insurance that they have coverage with, where they can show that they're going to be getting a specific amount of money from whatever company for the next 2 years or 3 years or for life, or till retirement, right? So having those conversations about insurance and having those plans in place is also another. I would say it's a safety net as well, right? It's a rainy day fund kind of thing. 6 months if you can, for sure. Do it for a year if you can, honestly. If you can float for a year, good. Like, that's great, right? But again, everyone's situation is different, so it would be difficult to peg a number to it or even a percentage. But I'd say 6 months should be, a starting point of where you should try to get to in case anything happens to you or your partner or whatever the case may be.
Have you heard of Dave Ramsey? He has like these 7 baby steps to becoming a millionaire. And like he starts with, first one is to create like a mini emergency fund of like $1,000.
Right.
It's not small enough that it's nothing. It's like progress because while you're paying off your debt, you don't want to incur more debt, right? Like something happens. So you have that.
Yeah.
And then you pay off the debt, and then you the next step is to save your 6 months of emergency fund, which is you need to have a lot of discipline to do that.
Oh, yeah,
and not spend,
right?
you know, and not like put your money and start investing or buy a house before you save that emergency fund. Because I'm learning this after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like most people
yeah.
learn this after the fact.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
After, because you find Dave Ramsey after you get into debt.
Exactly.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
That's the unfortunate part of it. But you're absolutely
You're
right.
like, wow, I wish I knew this from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
obviously there's the people that are like, oh, Dave Ramsey doesn't know what he's talking about because he's trying to make you live like a broke life.
Yeah, right,
and
right,
like he
right.
wants you to think minimally and like live on rice and beans and
Yeah,
da, da, da,
yeah.
but like everything goes over their head, right?
Yeah.
Because the one thing that Dave Ramsey does wrong is, or like that people you can knock him for, is he owns the mutual fund business that he basically recommends.
Right.
And people like they're taking a fee off of the investment,
Right,
off of the
okay.
investment, right?
Yeah,
Like that's the difference between a mutual fund and an ETF, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know like the difference?
No, the difference between a mutual fund and an ETF.
Yeah, like an index. Sorry, index. Like the index versus the mutual fund.
Mm-hmm.
Mutual fund is basically like you're buying like a fund
Yeah.
that is trying to beat the S&P.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Majority of the time they don't,
Right.
right? But Dave Ramsey's argument is like my funds have outperformed.
Right.
Kind of thing, but that's
Yeah.
because the majority of the average person is gonna go to the bank. Some person who doesn't know what they're doing is gonna put them in
Yeah.
some fund so they get their commission,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna make money versus the person who just kept their money in cash or
Right.
GIC.
Yeah.
But you're probably over your lifetime, you're probably gonna lose like $100,000 in fees, right?
Yeah. 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 There you go.
It's hard though because it's like 6 months takes you a long time.
Yeah,
So in that
absolutely.
time, your friends and family around you have bought a house.
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
they invested in Tesla. You just have to put all your money into this. It's
Yeah.
hard, right?
It's an aggressive approach I think Dave Ramsey takes for sure, right? And from the little I do know about
Yeah.
him, I've listened to him.
Because one of his steps is paying off your mortgage.
Yeah, and that's like the ultimate step.
Or
though,
but
right?
the one thing that he says is you have to buy your house cash, which is we live in Canada, so
that's
you can't do that.
in the GTA. Forget about it. I think we've topped all global numbers in terms of like
Yeah.
housing affordability,
Yeah.
right? Like we're like this is the most expensive place to live in the world
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So
Even more than Vancouver? Vancouver's
Vancouver is high. Vancouver and Toronto both are like
Yeah.
they top the list.
Yeah.
So
And New York, I think.
and
Right?
New York is up there for sure, but even then, like you can still find.
You can go
a
to
decent
suburbs in New
apartment.
York, probably.
Yeah, you can go to or you can find a decent condo or an apartment in New York, right?
Yeah.
Like here now, condo prices are coming down, which is great. But
Yeah.
I think like just like the average house price is still like it's exponentially higher than most places in the world.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but. Yeah, getting back to the Dave Ramsey thing, like I know his approach is definitely aggressive, but it just kind of goes back to trying your best to live within your means. It's just he's what without all the fluff, what he's saying is that don't buy into the consumerism aspect of it, right?
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
if you do want to get ahead, you do have to live a little bit frugal
Yeah.
to be able to enjoy your wealth later on.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard like the callers that call. I don't know if you've seen any of the clips.
I've heard a few callers.
Like people will
yeah.
be calling in and like they'll be like, their household income is like $450,000,
Right.
but they have like $900,000 of debt,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, oh, what should we do with our 5 cars? She'll be like, sell it, you're broke.
Yeah. Sheesh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's hard for people to grasp it, right?
Yeah,
Because
no.
people think the people that make the low income are the ones that are the most broke, but those
Right.
people are probably sometimes the most well off because
Yeah.
they know they don't have much to spend.
Right. Yeah. They start with nothing, so they don't have anything to lose really.
Yeah.
Whereas the people with money, it's like, well, I mean, 5 cars is excessive. But, hey,
In
to
the
each
U.S.,
their
it's
own.
way worse than Canada, right?
Yeah. No, it's
Because they spend their money on cars that they're saving on their mortgage, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I mean, I'm not against that if like
Yeah.
if you can afford it
Yeah.
and like you don't want to spend much on a mortgage and
Yeah.
you'd rather put it in your car. I'm totally for it. I know I'm a
Yeah.
car head too. I love
Yeah.
cars, but like
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, okay, where does that kind of passion? When does it become stupid?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, trust me.
so tough to gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips on paying down your mortgage faster?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest tip for sure, I'd say, well, a couple tips, but number one, I'd say, if you do want to pay it down faster, try to take the bi-weekly accelerated payments. You have options on your mortgage methods of payment. You can go monthly, you can go semi-monthly, you can go bi-weekly, you can go bi-weekly accelerated. Cutting down your amortization period by a year or two when you're paying bi-weekly. Accelerated, you're putting more towards the principal on the mortgage, so you're bringing it down again in that aspect. I would say if you can, try to do a top-up payment, which means an extra payment, like a month's worth, on your mortgage every year, towards the end of the year maybe. That can help you cut your amortization basically in half. So instead of paying off your mortgage in 30 years, You just made one extra payment on it, and you can pay it off in 10 to 15 years.
It's like a lump sum, putting a lump
yeah,
sum?
lump sum, putting a lump sum, because that lump sum payment that you make, Vint, it's going to go directly towards the principal. It's not going towards like principal and interest. You're putting it towards the principal on your mortgage.
Is there a cap to how much lump sum you can put in a year?
General rule of thumb is a 20% rule, right? So out of 20%, 10% you can make as a lump sum, 10% of the overall mortgage balance.
Yeah.
You can make as a lump sum payment, right? The other 10%, it would be baked into your monthly payments, monthly, biweekly, whatever. They'll just tag that on top of whatever it is, amortize it throughout the year, and then there's your extra 10% that you would have paid off.
Got it.
Right? So it's a 20% every year.
Yeah.
And that's going to come down every single year because you're paying off more and more.
Is there like a early mortgage pay down calculator that you guys use?
The one that I use is the Canadian Mortgage app.
Okay.
It's a good tool for like clients, just the general public to use. You punch in the numbers into the calculator, it'll tell you like, okay, this is what your biweekly payment's going to be, this is what your monthly payment is, and it'll give you a chart of how much you would have paid off by the end of your 5-year term or your 30-year amortization or 25 years. It'll tell you how quickly you can get to that goal and what the numbers are on a monthly basis or biweekly basis to help you get there. It's a great tool. I use it for myself. I use it for my customers. I tell everybody to download it. It's called the Canadian Mortgage app. You can find it on Apple Store or on Android Android, whatever the app store is that they have.
Google's Play or whatever.
Google Play Store. I think it's probably the most popular app for consumers like in the country. It's a great tool. I definitely recommend everybody download.
Will it show like how much money you're saving? Like when you put in the numbers,
you would have to kind of do that yourself to see how much it'll tell you like how quickly you can pay things down and how long it'll take. So if you just like note down the numbers of okay, this is how much it takes to pay off in 30 years.
You'll see
the 20.
The difference.
You'll see
numbers.
the difference. It'll tell you that difference.
Yeah, too. I know about this because Dave Ramsey has like his own like Ramsey pay down calculator thing.
Yeah.
And when I put numbers in there, I was like, whoa, like you're saving like $250,000 just by putting this lump sum in.
Yeah, that's a good app too. I should download that myself.
Yeah, but it's like a US thing, but it's like no, it's like a desktop thing. You can just go in and punch stuff in. But no, it's good that we have a Canadian one.
Yeah, right? Exactly. We've got a Canadian one, but like again, in the way you calculate interest the same way across the world, right? That's an underlying rule of thumb.
Yeah.
So whatever the case may be, like if he's got a good tool, definitely utilize it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people like myself that are looking to at some point purchase real estate, we're looking at the mortgage rate calculator. You're calculating, I put my down payment in, like I ratehub.ca, whatever.
Right.
But you're not really thinking about the actual mortgage, the amortization.
Yeah. Exactly.
And paying that down.
No.
Right.
Yeah,
that's actually a way more important.
Very much
numbers to crunch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Rayhub and things they're great tools, but I think if you know exactly what your monthly is going to be and how quickly you can pay down the interest, I should say the principal on your mortgage. That's the most important thing because one extra payment can make a huge difference for you, right? In the long term.
Yeah.
So imagine if you're able to make 2 or 3 extra, right?
Yeah.
It's not obviously it's difficult to do sometimes.
I think it's important, I guess, like to do the math on do reverse engineer it and figure that out first before you figure out your affordability, right?
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
like once you've already bought the house,
you're stuck.
You don't know how much you're fixed with whatever extra payment you can make on it, right?
And then you got to think about the fixed versus variable.
Yeah.
And how is that going to play into it? Am I going to take the risk on and take the variable, or do I just want to play it safe and go fixed? I myself, for any mortgage I've had, I've always gone fixed because again, I'm on a variable income. Yeah. So I like to play the safe game. Yeah. But everyone's different, right? I'd say do the research and contact a mortgage person, right? Speak to them about what they think is the best fit for you too, right? So
what is your financial goal?
My financial goal is to be financially free, which means that I want to pay off my mortgage. I want to be debt free, and I want to be able to do the things that I want to do and not think about, do I have the money to do it? So it's obviously a long-term play for me. Yeah. Paying off my mortgage is definitely I'd say my number one goal right now.
One thing I want to touch on is I just forgot and I remember it now. We were talking about paying off the mortgage. I feel like when our parents are buying homes and stuff, I feel like paying off the mortgage was more emphasized because of the affordability. And I feel like nowadays for our generation, it's just affording the house is what's at forefront. Mm-hmm. So people don't really think about the back end of trying to pay the whole thing off.
Yeah.
Because the number's so huge.
Yeah, they don't. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get it. I think times are changing now, right? Like I think
that's a scary thing, right? Because once you're in, you're in, right?
Yeah, once you're in, you're in. But you know, if you do it again, if you do it to something that's within your means, right, and not like over leverage yourself, you can pay it off.
Yeah.
You know, you can get to that goal that you want to get to in a timely manner. It doesn't need to take 30, 40, 50 years. You know, it shouldn't take that long. And I get it, life happens along the way, but you know, you do your best to stick to your guns and you know, help yourself out by, you know, doing the things that you don't want to do, but you know it's going to benefit you down the line. Thanks for the time, Vince, man. Appreciate it. It was good
appreciate you coming
today.
on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man. It was good fun. I hope we could do it again. Maybe touch on another topic next time, you know?
100%.
Yeah. All right.